Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the greatest player of all time, in the red, the finisher. It's Serral, facing off against one of his greatest challengers, the Protoss in the blue, the Executor. We have Classic. In a best of 5, Protoss versus Zerg showdown. Between Serral's endless patience and Classic's long-winded strategies, I think there will be plenty of time for you to smash that like button, and maybe even subscribe. How we got to the algorithm, and Jimmy, what are we at? 1,655 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As Classic, unable to block any of those early bases from Serral, instead, he's able to just slap down his Natchery and his third, undeterred. The first Adept will come in to do some follow-up scouting and just generally make the Zerg's life difficult. But then again, that's like the most of the first 5 minutes of the build order for Protoss and Terran alike. And Serral, I was spooling up to do all your generic filler commentary as the Queen and Adepts play footsies. But no, Serral, with a lot of feetsies on the way. Should sign up for OnlyFans, but 2 Adepts up against a dozen Zerglings, and Serral's just gonna show them. Serral is clearly intent on demonstrating that the best defense is a good offense. And showing Classic these Zerglings, I'm not sure how that affects his reaction. Obviously, the Oracles are gonna want to be back at home to defend the third. The Oracle actually doing a once around. I think he's just registering what he saw. That Serral actually built enough Zerglings to be dangerous. But they're not at the base. Both players are waiting for the other to make the next move. The Oracle is holding out a vision range, making sure Serral can't see it, and Serral is hiding from any Oracles coming out. The Overlord spotted the second Oracle coming across the map. The Zerglings are going to come in. The Adepts, 2 Adepts is already a bit annoying to engage, but he will just jump right on top of them. Third Adept as well be surrounded as it warps in, and the Oracles are coming back home, which is the real win here. This is enough Zerglings that Classic cannot be sure there aren't more on the way. We know there aren't more on the way, but Serral, threatening to cancel that base, forces the Oracles back and carves open quite an economic lead for himself at a time when, especially up against this composition, that economic lead is not guaranteed. The Oracles unable to do anything on the other side because the Zerglings already preemptively blocked them from doing so. The Hero Overlord, will come in and spot that this is exactly what Serral expected it to be. A Twilight, a Forge, more gates on the way. Just confirming this isn't some sort of Tempest rush, occasionally glaved Adepts, but that just kind of, I guess, underlines the standard build that Classic is playing. The Blink Stalkers in order to keep the pressure on, and with the Oracles overhead to protect. But the Oracle's kind of ambitious. The Queen's the triple team, and get off my crate! Yeah, but he got the stasis, Brenda. Still! A mediocre stasis, definitely not worth the cost of losing that Oracle early. A mild hiccup in the mining of Serral, and a major setback in the scouting for Classic. 1 Oracle can't do much more than slap down Revelations for, well, the foreseeable future, based on my revelations. Hydra is done on the way. Serral, 68 drones. And that's going to be the number for a while, it looks like. He's got 7 Overlords in production. Clearly intending on building enough units to crush any sort of Blink Stalkers on the way. Templar Archives just started, so Storm is still quite a ways off. No, the clouds are on the horizon. 4 bases for Serral. 68 drones exactly. That 4th hatchery, a big part of continuing to maintain the momentum. Classic does not have a 4th nexus. A Zergling on location. Overseer coming in to make sure he knows about the tech follow-up. But Serral is not adding on any tech himself. No more drones, no more hatcheries. Overseer just casually strolling by. Going to see the robotics facility, which indicates Classic not going all in here, but instead just looking to put on the pressure. The base itself. A couple stasis are backstopping this. And Serral gets a few of the Zerglings caught. And this is a precarious time for both sides. Neither has enough army to reliably crush the other. unless they make a big mistake, one way or the other. Well, another stasis actually catches the queen in a few more lanes. The stalkers continuing to go forward. The adepts tried to shade in, got ripped apart. The fourth base opened up. Classic taking it behind all this. The stalkers moving in, but the Hydra count and the Zergling number actually quite high. Stasis only catches a few lanes. A panic recall. He's going to lose 3-4 more stalkers on the way out. A costly mistake. Digging a little bit too deep and just a slight bit too greedily. And Storm is not quite done yet. And the Overseer, it has enough energy for Contaminate. If Serral's able to cancel the Storm, that could be a potentially game-winning move at this exact moment. He's coming in, he spots the Templar, the Hydras. There's the threat of Storm there. The Overseer, 3-2. That close. I think Serral noticed that it likely finished. And honestly, now there's enough army on the field. They have +1. Very helpful for that Archon and everything else, but very much the Archon with the splash damage on everything nearby. Behind it, though, Serral was not putting all his eggs in this particular basket. He was putting them in many different directions. Overlords, Hydras, more drones to replace the ones he's spending on building a Lurker den, spine crawlers. That hive is nearly completed already, but not to be outdone. There's a fleet beacon on the way for Classic. So both players shooting up the tech tree like a bamboo shoot right now. And quite a haphazard fight. The fourth hatchery taking a lot of damage. Zoning storms, keeping many of the Hydras at bay. Takes out the hatchery. Another storm wades through it. There's a bit more energy left over in Classic. We'll do a tactical withdrawal. Potentially end up losing the Templar, which is quite costly in the scheme of things. But Serral lost the fourth hatch. Classic deciding to continue fighting this out, which is a bit questionable, but Tempests are already on the way. Serral down to 136 supply, and without the fourth hatchery, it's not just the economy, it's the production. You don't have that extra larva in order to reinforce the army. And that means Classic, with a fourth base online, his gateways and stargates already up, is able to match Serral's supply with a strong fighting army right now that's about to have +2 ground weapons. Until the Lurkers really hit the field, or I guess more relevantly under the field, but let's not be pedantic, all right? That's for the comments. But until the Lurkers are ready, especially with those Hive Tech upgrades, because without Hive Tech upgrades, those Lurkers are like a biscuit without butter. But the Lurkers revealed, or more accurately not revealed, and Classic forced to back off before he gets eviscerated. The Tempest continue production. No mothership on the way yet, but +1 Protoss air weapons. Slaps down some more Revelation to help clear the creep. The Overlord, or I mean the Oracle, after seeing what happened to its more lackadaisical brethren, has stayed alive throughout all this. The battle lines are drawn and the Zealots are cutting through the Zerglings. Quite an efficient trade as those Zealots just charging forward, slicing up another few dozen links. The battle has continued for over 2 minutes. Classic taking a marginally better trade by most measures. But it's going to come down to this initial Lurker wave. Serral's managed to slip by completely uncontested and burrows down right in front of the third base. The Oracle and the Observer provide detection, but there's not that much on the ground. I don't see any Immortals. And Lurkers from the left side. Who's flanking who at this stage? The Tempests are shelling the Hydras, but slowly working their way through the Lurkers. Another storm. More Lurkers coming up. Serral, he might be able to take out the Nexus. How many Hydras? 3 Hydras are not quite enough anti-air to deal with 4 Tempests and anything else underneath. But the Lurkers have already taken out the Nexus, removed that economic location, and the game has shifted in much the same way as a few minutes ago when Serral lost his fourth base. Now Classic is the one with a strong army, but somewhat less economy. Though the worker count for both sides is still pretty comfortable. 85 to 89. There's no way Classic can officially mine with 36 workers on his natural. A little bit much, but just looking for new employment opportunities. Serral took the base down the center. The half and half gold with the destructible rocks. The Lurker's trying to deal with the 12 o'clock, but not going to get it. Tempest Ain't no kill like overkill on those drones. Tectonic destabilizers on the way to help annihilate buildings. Pretty much doubles the damage against buildings. Classic starting to cut through. He's taking the supply lead. The Lurkers are getting cut down. A desperate transfuse, but another Lurker taken out. The Storm softening things up. Only Templar left over on the ground. This fight just kind of sprawling across the field. Lurkers from the north side, but there's barely any ground units with left to flank. Classic only now retaking the Nexus at his former third location. But a mothership has completed. Serral, his fifth base was removed. He lost a few drones. And he can't really replace his army. He's lost 4,000 more resources, including 1,000 more gas. He's struggling to contest Classic's supply. Classic has kept the core parts of his army together. The Tempest, the Templar, and the Mothership. Well, the Mothership now being revealed. It's inevitable as time goes on and the Protoss has a good enough economy. Not the most, agile unit, but it doesn't need to be, especially since it can't be abducted anymore. It stays firmly entrenched wherever it decides to come to rest. And having access, let alone anything else, having a second recall really exponentially increases your opportunity to move around the map as Protoss. That mothership recall ability, on top of the time warp, on top of the cloaking, really gives you a whole layer cake of beautiful Protoss opportunities. Charge lots over to the left flank. Half a dozen Tempest. Dorito dusted now for extra damage. Obliterates the hatchery moments later. Void Ray is on the way to directly contest the Corruptors. That is an interesting move. Going for almost pure sky toss as opposed to more of a ground army. Hatchery down the center. Just exploderated. Serral cancels it before it can get too close. Has to slow things down. The Corruptor count. Now, the careful balance begins. Too many Corruptors, and a ground army will wipe you out. Too few, and you just die to the sky toss. Yes, eventually you can make your Spire great again. Eventually Broodlords are an option. But you can't just shift back and forth from Broodlords into Corruptors and vice versa. So being caught with too little anti-air is not a risk that Serral wants to take. But you still see him adding on Lurkers, more Zerglings, thinking about counterattacks, cutting off these Zealots, anticipating this attack. Serral's upgrades are actually quite thin. No melee attack, no carapace, just +2 range. Serral's been pretty broke throughout this game, while Classic is banking up now, 2,000, 1,500. It's starting to trend in Classic's direction once again. The master of the late game, the high-tech Protoss. Though the Lurkers will slice up a couple Archons. The Lurkers are moving forward on the other side as well. Lurkers everywhere. Recalls back the mothership itself, alongside the majority of the army, abandoning the Zealots on the other side. Classic repositioning, consolidating his army. And we've seen time and time again, it's much more important to keep the right army alive than it is to protect every base. Okay, you can rebuild a Nexus for 400 minerals, but the mothership requires 400 minerals and gas. So, not exactly the cheapest thing. Losing a few extra units to try to protect a base is just not worth it in the long term. And we're going to have to start thinking about long-term futures here, as both players are investing in these high-tech armies. Serral, though, curiously, well, not really curiously, the reason he's not adding spellcasters is because he's been broke most of this time. And he hasn't needed them. The Lurkers have gotten the job done. The Corruptors have forced out this sort of composition. The cannons are coming up across the board. There's currently 15 cannons on the map, with more on the way. The Storm's keeping things at bay. Classic, trying to reposition, just knocks out another Lurker. +2 air weapons now completed. And +2 air armor's on the way. Flyer attack level 1 about to complete for Serral, and he's working on melee attack as well. But one mediocre fight could put him in an unrecoverable position. This is such a tough position for Zerg to deal with. Classic has, well, he spent all of his gas bank. He just warped in 4 more Templar. A Congress of Corruptors is looking for some pickoffs. The Archons underneath, with those changelings are quite conspicuous, but Classic not really realizing. Vipers, Neural Parasite, now in production. I mean, that's one way to beat this army, is with this army. Tempest very good against Tempest. Corruptors split. Time Warp tries to zone him out, just evades it entirely. The Corruptor's on top of everything. The Archon's trying to reposition. There's not that many storms left over. Knocks out the mothership with a fadeaway shot. And the Lurkers are able to slice through the Archons from a more extreme range. And suddenly Serral has surgically amputated the most important parts of the army. The mothership has been removed. The Archon count has been whittled down. He's rebuilding. Well, he has to rebuild Overlords, but Hydras and Corruptors. Classic still trying to go forward. He does have that Observer. He can see the Lurkers, and he still has a lot of supply on the field. But a single Lurker has denied the base down the center. Charge lots, almost impossible to deal with without committing Lurkers. Tempest shelling through another hatchery. Serral with a Greater Spire on the way. Another ship is halfway done. This single Lurker, Serral's so good at being... He's just... Somehow he finds these opportunities. Works smarter and not harder. One Lurker. Why use many Lurker when one Lurker do trick? He knew it wasn't going to be a base-breaking counterattack. But he kept him from mining for this long. Serral has managed to slide into the green yet again. As you see the red dip all the way down, 2,000 more resources per minute. As Serral has the 6 o'clock base all the way over to, we'll call it the 5 o'clock. So, 2-3 mining bases at the moment. Though Classic is reinforcing. There's an Overlord just hanging out, watching it all come together. Just kind of accepting its lot in life. There's another dozen cannons or so put together. Corruptors. Not able to knock anything out quite yet, but get one of the Tempests. Abducts another. Takes out 2 of the Storms, late on the draw. Classic working on +3 air weapons and armor. Meanwhile, Serral is over here with the used car dealer version. Alright. You know, you could get a new 3-3 Corruptor. Right here. Walk out of it right now. Walk right out of this dealership with a 3-3 Corruptor. Or for half the price, I could offer you +1 flyer attack and maybe a neural parasite or 2. Well, how does it fare against detection? Not well. Not well. But a few things do. The Corruptors. Serral's still with 200 supply, and he's managed to bank up more gas as well. That single Lurker backstab. Classic, still 1,200 gas more efficient, but Serral, oh my. Almost killed another half dozen probes with a single Lurker swipe, but a Nidus is on the way. Serral has held on so far, and he's whittled down Classic to an actually inferior bank. It's still a very difficult army to dismantle. Yeah, the Nidus on the way. 3 Infestors in production. Burrow is completed. Very helpful for that neural parasite, of course. The Lurkers. Templar gliding forward. I think there are a few probes mixed into that army, but, you know, they have a taste for blood. Somehow. Nidus in the main base. Now being revealed, 2 Zealots might not be enough to actually stop this before it completes and pops out some Lurkers. Serral will do so. Gets 5 Lurkers in there and starts another Nidus. And this has gone from a concern to a quandary. Classic is nearly maxed out, so he can only warp in so much. Suffering from success at the moment as he tries to deal with this. Obviously doesn't want to lose the fleet beacon, but Serral with the escape. I'm out of here. Another Nidus coming in, but he actually baited the army into position. He recalls the Archons to the mothership underneath. Great quick thinking out of Classic. But Serral still outmaneuvering him, and the Lurker's back! The Lurker is back and stabbing its way through the base. The Nidus Worm obliterated with great prejudice. As Classic, but another Nidus at the back of the base. Serral trying to bait in. The Corruptors are in position to pick things off. He's even got a Viper alongside. Just camping the Tempest in the Stargates. And now Serral, that one Lurker, he's setting himself up so no matter what, he wins. All right, he plays every side so he can't lose. And so far, it's working out. The pylons, the powerhouse, the Protoss, being completely pulled apart by the Lurkers. He targets the Nidus. Oh, a little bit late. And the Lurkers will be obliterated here. But keeping them busy. On the other side, just an entire floor of Lurkers. Serral keeping Classic so busy in the main base. Meanwhile, the Zerglings may actually take out this Nexus. It's been a long time coming. Like 3-4 minutes of constantly dragging Classic away. And finally, Serral takes down that Nexus. The cannons just throughout the entire field. Another cannon in the main actually helping to deal with the Nidus Worm. But Serral is exhausting a lot of his bank. He's got 9 Broodlords on the way. That is quite an army out of Classic. 132 to 137 army supply. Serral technically with slightly more. The mothership is still in the main base. Tempest going to obliterate the base down the center again. The income has tilted back towards Classic despite losing that center base because Serral, 1, doesn't have that many drones, and 2, he just lost a base of his own. In fact, he tried to take the 3 o'clock base, which was a bit optimistic, but the feedbacks on the infestors not quite nailing it. A couple almost popped by the feedbacks, but the Broodlords overhead gonna grind their way through the Archons. And if it's just Archons fighting Archons, Immortals left behind. Does he kill the hatchery? He does not. The Archons can't be recalled back because they're part of the Zerg army, at least temporarily. The Archon will actually kill one of the infestors. What's happening in the main? A warp prism, but the Lurkers will eviscerate the Zealots. The Lurkers will cut through the Nexus to the top left corner. The Zealots will do the same to the 3 o'clock base. But Serral has managed to dismantle the counterattack. He's knocked out the army. He's removed multiple Nexi. And he's up by 70 supply. What happened? Serral. The Lurkers now. Classic is reeling from all of this. Serral, a maestro, has managed to manipulate Classic into this position. He forced him into an awkward fight. Classic clearly just trying to shove his way in and get something done with what he thought was a potentially game-winning army. And Serral just pulled him apart while stabbing him in the back, making sure nothing could get the damage done. The Nidus complete, slightly out of range of the cannon, takes out the cannon. More Zerglings up to the top left corner. Those will be cut down. But just setting things up for later. More Lurkers. The fleet beacon itself could be cut out. The Stargates ripped apart or depowered. The Corruptors on top of this yanks in a Tempest. Gets another one. Buy one, get one free. Well, it's not free. You still have to go get the energy. But 27 more probes dead, and Classic is crumbling. He doesn't have the money to rebuild this army. He doesn't have the bases to reliably mine from. And he doesn't seem to have any idea how to strike back against Serral effectively. Serral has somehow gone from a tenuous position to a commanding one. He's maxed out with money in the bank. Again, Classic has half the supply. Classic still has resources. But he can't spend them. He's only got like 3-4 gateways powered. More opening up at the natural. But one of the most comprehensive dismantlings I have ever seen of arguably the most difficult unit composition in the game to deal with. It's not over yet. But, if Classic couldn't get it done with 200 supply and an armada, I'm hard-pressed to see 100 being enough to take it home. Wow. Serral continues to shut things down. And he's just, like... So many players would just be going for the kill. But Serral just keep calm and carry on. He knows he's dealt critical damage, and now he's letting Classic die. A Nidus behind the wall. Let us in! Let us in! Well, the Zerglings popping out of the Nidus. Lurker slicing through the third. This is actually a horrible trade for Serral, but I don't know if those actually exist anymore. Classic still has quite an army. Those Lurkers, he kills any Templar. But Infestor Broodlords. Hello, darkness, my old friend. The Changeling's almost blocking the Zealots from being able to kill the Nidus, but Classic has exhausted his bank, a significant part of it, in rebuilding his infrastructure. And... Classic still has an army. That's why he's not tapping out. Like, 92 supply of +3/3 Tempest Archons. I guess +1 shields on him, but... Serral has still not maxed out his upgrades. He's only now working on +3 Carapace. There's the feedbacks. 0 out of 5 tried to murder me. 0 out of 5 succeeded. The Tempest turned on their own. Serral using those Tempests to snipe the Templar. Wow! And then holding them in place so the Corruptors can take them down. Serral just calmly picking apart this incredibly expensive Protoss army. And I don't think Classic had insurance. The Oracle comes in, actually manages to get an Infestor or two. But that's it. Serral. A absolute grand master class of how... The thing is, I'm going to say how to play the late game, but I'm still not exactly sure what happened. But Serral, between multiple Niduses, the Corruptor and Viper positioning, as well as just constantly pressuring, constantly poking, constantly prodding, and whenever he sees a little bit of weakness, just another Lurker. All right, a few Zerglings. Never overcommitting, but always putting something out there. And, well, diversifying his portfolio. Well, that is the Serral that Zerg players hate to see for their sake when it comes to the next Balance Council patch notes. But what a beautiful game from Serral, where any fight for about 10 minutes straight could have resulted in a near automatic loss. Instead, it turns into a decisive victory. I don't even know. All right, game 2. Leylons. The escape Niduses, the single Lurkers. He never let Classic build up much of an immortal count either. Because I think Classic went straight into the Tempest so quickly, like, he kind of skipped over the immortals. And Serral recognized that, I'm pretty sure, is why he had so many Lurkers. Because if they end up having a deathball of like 8-10 immortals, which is not rare, then the Lurkers, especially in small numbers, get obliterated. But if they don't add too many immortals in, then the Archons need the Tempest support. The Archons can't get very close. All right, the Archons don't believe in social distancing, so they want to get all up in your grill and show you their overwhelming power. which HR said I can't say, but we're just gonna... Moving on. So, Serral recognizing the weaknesses of the composition and just picking off the Tempest on the way back to the main. The neural parasite was just gratuitous. It added to it. I don't think it was necessary, but it certainly... He truly makes... No matter what, like, when Serral has a great game, he truly makes Zerg look overpowered. Much to the dismay, again, of pretty much... Well, literally every other Zerg player. There is not another Zerg player in the world who's able to do that. Serral on some days is unable to do that. Even against Classic. But, this is not one of those days. Probe. Being as annoying as possible. Even stealing some of the minerals. Just, well, if this match comes down to 5 minerals, you know who to blame. It's not actually, considering these two's history, those 5 minerals are not out of the question. Alright, if you haven't yet seen Classic versus Serral from DreamHack Dallas, you can find, I think the thumbnail just has a bunch of Broodlords in it. Hopefully this one doesn't also have a bunch. Jimmy, don't put a bunch of Broodlords in the thumbnail. I don't care how good it works. Alright, come up with something original. Like one Broodlord. Or a mini-map. Sorry. Edit that out. But, I am not exaggerating when I say those 5 minerals could be a game changer. It's worth it. Alright. The comments will back me up. They've already seen this match I'm talking about. Well, the whole thing. But one in particular. Alright, Queen's going back and forth. The Adept poking in. No big Zergling backstab this time. But instead... The mind games, like, from the very beginning, I should have been prepared. Serral has looked mortal lately. Alright. There's a single-digit number of... Low single-digit number of players who can beat him. Classic, one of them. But the mind games on that first Zergling rush. And we got another one. A dozen lings on the way, but this is a cancel the third base time. He's got 8 more lings. This is a full-on Zerg rush. A full-on Zerg rush. Enough Zerglings to cancel the Nexus. I don't think he's trying to fight the Adepts here. But instead, the Zerglings gonna be sneaking in. And the Overlord... Stalker, not in position. Actually goes for the Adept. Classic. A little lazy. Will cost him an Adept. He didn't quite have them tucked into those minerals, but you know what? It wasn't a cancel the third base timing. It was a good old-fashioned keep the oracles back at home. The timing is so perfect. Might be able to grab that Stalker before it gets back. Wait, that's a hard wall. Classic. Serral. I'm sure happy to see that. It's not a big deal. Wait. No, it's not a hard wall. Did Serral think it was hard? It looked like one. It's not. Alright. I've got my hero glasses on. Classic actually quite an expert at walling off. Save the drone with the Evo chamber. He probably wanted to build anyways. The oracles this time around. Be glazing some of the drones. The queens jammed in behind the mineral line. It's a bit of a tight fit, but they managed to make it through there. The Zerglings working around, but Classic a little bit better off this time after the early exchanges. Gonna be only a few probes behind. Which a perfectly... What? He lost an oracle. Clearly both myself and Classic looking the other way. Losing an oracle early on. Another medium to large blow. Certainly not how you want to start things off. Those having 2 oracles is an order of magnitude better than 1. A single oracle just to slap down revelation. You can use all the energy on the other for helping to clear creep, building stasis. Just having the 1 means he's got to wear a lot of hats. So, I mean, with energy recharge, you can usually get away with it, but it's not as fun. Templar Archives already on the way. Oracle. Lights up. Adepts threaten to shade through. Brenda, where are you going? Turn off Apple Maps. I'm an Android user. I don't even understand what that means. Is that a Terran term? No. Sorry, I'm blacked out for a moment. Storm's on the way. More gates. Robo in production. Infestation bit for Serral. 66 drones building up enough to crush this timing, ideally. We'll see if he's actually able to do so. So far, the Zergling counterattack Hydras. Fighting it out. Zergling counterattack shut down, and the Hydras not quite enough. So again, classic. Maybe stepping a bit too far. 1 Stalker. Gonna pay the price. Oh, Serral with the contaminate. It's ready. It's ready. But Serral's looking to intercept the Stalkers. Forces out a recall yet again. This time around, only going to get 1 Stalker. And yet again, the contaminate not going to be there. Not that it would matter too much. Serral with the Overseer in the main. He could delay the +2 attack. I think you go for, yeah, you just go for the 4. Delaying the upgrades, obviously very helpful. Not as potentially game-winning as straight-up delaying Storm, but Serral has no intentions. He's not short-sighted. In fact, it's like he's got binoculars on. That's how far ahead he's looking. Maybe that's how he figures out how to outmaneuver for 5 minutes straight. But he's already got a hive on the way. 5 Lurkers. They're tech Lurkers, so, you know, the starter version, but a fleet beacon is in production for Classic as we head towards the late game. Kind of skip there with these 2 on a frequent occasion. Now we've got, oh, the warp prism. Oh no. Knocked out of the sky. Classic. Working his way around. 5 more Lurkers on the way. Lurker range in production, but Classic with a healthy army supply. Not that healthy if he fights up a ramp into Lurkers. Whoa. Those Zealots. One Lego away from stubbing their toe and dying, but the other Zealots surrounded by Hydras and Lings, and Classic suddenly rethinks the aggressive stance he was taking. Spires on the way. More cannons to batten things down. 2 Tempests in production and a mothership as well. The Storm may end up killing his own observer. Not quite. The Storm softening up many of the Zerglings. Tempest knocking out the Overseer. Oh no, the Templar! Quite a flank out of Serral! And just ripping through. He saves the Templar, the Blink Stalkers. What a save for Classic. And a recall to get out. Wow, he MacGyvered his way out of that one. Still a costly fight, but it goes from a critical damage to mostly superficial. He lost some Stalkers, he lost some Zealots, but only 1 Archon, and he killed 4 Lurkers. So actually Classic gets the better end of that exchange despite Serral's positioning. Wow, actually straight up dodges a stasis, which is remarkably hard to do, even with Zerglings. Adrenal glands on the way. A Zealot in the wall, holding the line, but charges out. +2 ground weapons done. Finally for Classic after the contaminate. Mothership nearly completed. And the Tempest count continues to grow. Serral just expanding across absolutely everything. We've got more Corruptors in production. Melee attack. Carapace. This is not the low economy brawl we saw last game. This is 95 drone Serral. He's got 5 bases going on 6, going on 7. About as much economy as you could ever ask for. A dozen corruptors on the way. Overlord speed completing. All the fixins here. Meanwhile, Classic isn't doing too bad himself. He has 82 probes. Yep, the Zerglings get in, but the Zealot Warping cuts off the rest. That pylon could be targeted. Actually, not a bad angle for the Hydras. Just kind of shimmies his way through. The Hydras will get inside the base, finding a pretty good position there. And there's a Changeling! Oh, he could have body blocked him out. I'm sure Classic would have figured it out pretty quick. But this is drawing the army away in order to bring the Lurkers in. And slices through. Beautifully done. But Classic deflects it with the active cloaking. Some charge lots to the south. And adrenal glands now completed. But how many Zerglings? 3 Zerglings. So, that's awkward. The Zealots just sprinting in. 3 Archons on the way. Tectonic destabilizers. We're filling in the rest of the late game upgrade. The Corruptor chased the Prism all the way back to the base and beyond. The Prism has survived thus far. We'll fly back over the shield battery and the cannon. This is awkward. The shield battery doesn't quite... It got one last drip of energy, which might be enough to save it. Serral realized at the last moment. That saga has now ended. The B-plot. More like the E-plot at this point. Zerglings over on the Nexus down the center. Meanwhile, the Tempest obliterate the hatchery on the opposite side. And the late game has certainly begun. Nidus, Greater Spire, Second Spire on the way. Burrow as well. Angling towards those infestors. Classic building up the bank. Air weapons level 1 is done. Serral again, picking him apart. Another Nexus down to the north. Things will slow down as both sides kind of take stock. They both reached out in order to expand as far as they could. And both have kind of bopped the hatcheries and the Nexi on the outside. And consolidated their forces where they can defend. And now Serral is thinking about an Ultraless Cavern. A bold move, but potentially a game-winning one. As Ultras against... How many Immortals? Only 3 Immortals. Something you can use to just cut through bases. It's a costly endeavor. But Ultras, when used well, I think Serral is one of the few who can make that decision. Can turn things heavily in your favor to the point... Well, unlike last game, Ultras can just barrel through the cannons, absorb the damage, ignore Storm, but they cannot ignore Immortals, Mass Tempest, so... or a whole bunch of Archons. They're the strongest counterattack option, and the most expensive. I'd say even more than Lurkers, pound for pound, considering the cost and supply. But obviously we know pound for pound the most expensive is your mother. That was a compliment. 7 cannons on the way. Immortals being added in chitinous plating. Serral again hitting the Nexus down the center. Archons maneuvering into position. Not going to lose the Lurkers. Serral, unless the Nexus is about dead, just pulls back the Lurkers. He's patient, he'll wait. He'll come back later. Manages to find a spot without cannons to slap down a Nidus. And, the Tempest will get rid of it. The Changelings. At what point? At what point is it too many to deal with? The Changelings with the army. Oh, my wife for hire, like, right, boys? How much does she charge? No, like a Templar. No, I was making a Zealot joke. Hey, get your jokes straight. Who are these guys? I don't... The probes will dismantle the changelings, sniffing out the traitors. Another Nidus makes its way into the natural. There are cannons dotting the base, but Serral just keeps finding. Oh, that's changelings. Nope. Password. Hunter 2. And things definitely slowing down as Serral continuing the counterattacks, but it seems, well, he's got a whole forest of spines to the north. He's got a sporist coming together down the center. And we are going into the supreme late game, where it's no longer about the army compositions, but about the amount in the bank. Just eviscerated a couple of mortals in Templar. These trades still quite good for Serral. He's actually lost approximately the same amount of resources. In fact, Classic has lost slightly more, which bodes very well considering how aggressively Serral is expanding. But, of course, you have to be careful not to throw things away. I don't need to tell Serral that. Working on +3 upgrades. This time it's Classic who's been stuck with lower upgrades. This time it's Classic who has been scrounging for minerals and gas. I mean, not anymore. Obviously, it's perfectly fine. But Serral has also... This isn't gonna end anytime soon. All right, I keep... It's like, okay, we gotta shift out of play-by-play into more chess-by-mail commentary. As the Broodlords are moving forward. The worker counts are still kind of surprisingly high as the armies grow in sheer value. 7,800, 6,500 for Serral's army at nearly equal army supply as Classic, who only has 6K, 5,200. So Classic still with a bunch of zealots mixed in. Tempests are actually not that costly per supply. I don't know if that's true. It's just that Infestors and Broodlords are very expensive. The Lurker's just shredding zealots before they can even get close. Move a little bit forward. Actually micros back to make sure the cannons can't hit. Slowly, yet methodically, working his way through the defenses and using the Nidus as an escape route. Pulls back from the base down the center. Another Nidus. Another set of changelings providing vision. The mothership backstopping the main army. Serral tucks back into the bottom right. And now Cletus, the Lurker, left behind. Oh, and Classic obliterates his own Nexus. Emotional damage. Classic, I have no idea, but wow, quite an own goal there. As Classic literally killed his own Nexus, which in the grand scheme of things is not actually that big a deal because he has 5,000 in the bank. He can rebuild it immediately, but, you know, does not bode well. What a storm run by. He recalls the Templar out like a glide by, but the Templar just casually stroll in, storm 8 drones to death. But the Lurkers are just, well, they continue to slice through. 3 Infestors on the way. The Immortal's not going to be enough. Crosshatched by the Lurkers. Serral closing in on fully maxed out upgrades. The Storm softening him up, but the hardened Carapaces. He's got +3 Carapace and has for a while. Carapaces? That sounds wrong. Carapaces. No, that's right. Some days I know how to speak English. On other days, I speak American. Yeah, I have the best words. The YouTube comments tell me. That's how I know. They're very smart there. Like and subscribe if you agree. Another wall of cannons coming together. Serral now mining the Rich Vespine. So the Rich Vespine is usually high impact because it allows you to get a big boost to your tech. But the fact that 2 of the geysers on the map are Rich Vespine, they mine out quicker. And there's only one of them. Has the same amount, 2250 gas apiece. So, not that big a deal. in this sort of set piece match. +3 shields, +2 air weapons on the way. Serral did get the Ultralisk upgrades, as the upgrades... That's one way to deal with this. You shall not pass. Cannons and Templar and shield batteries. There are 27 cannons on the map and counting. 17 spore crawlers, 9 spines. Not getting too ridiculous yet. The worker counts are slowly dipping as neither side really incentivized to rebuild, as we're past the point they can reliably mine from multiple bases. Serral, neural parasites, the Tempest, and, well, that's one way to hold them in place, but the storms are good on the Corruptors. Yanks in another couple, the Broodlords sieging during it. The Broodlords getting the damage done while the Corruptors were dueling with the air army. In Classic, getting ground down. He still has plenty in the bank, but Serral has over 9,000. What, 9,000? Over 9,000 minerals and gas. And counting. He's had the overwhelming income advantage for all but a few seconds of the last 10 minutes. Warp in of some charge lots will maybe take out the Spire, but +3 air attack is completing on the Greater Spire in the main. And rebuilding, well, he already has a Spire then, so he doesn't really need 2 at this point. So that's superficial damage. So with 10,000 gas, are you kidding me? Oh, he's gonna corner the market at this point. This is how he always ends up with such great long-term investments, okay? He knows how to limit the supply and the demand. I demand you look at the supply. They're both maxed out. Classic isn't technically maxed out, but he could at any time. I think he just is holding some of the supply open to warp in. What's the total? We got 8 gates, 3 stargates, a single robo. The Broodlord count, 9 Broodlords, 16 Corruptors, 3 Lurkers, 8 Infestors, 73 Zerglings. Serral has maxed out the upgrades. 3-3, 3-3-3. Meanwhile, +3 shields about to complete for Classic. That's a rare one as well. As Serral has turned this into an economic war. Classic has been unable to take a cost-effective fight. Serral's lost 2,000 more gas. That is a lot of Archons. That's a dozen Archons. Just annihilating everything in their path. There weren't nearly enough Lurkers. Without the Broodlord, the Archons just melt everything. Wow. The Tempest helping with the static defense. Honestly, the value of the Spine Crawlers is making it hard for the Archons to get close. Zergling counterattack with the surprisingly high number of lanes. Active cloaking will protect the Nexus. How many Tempests? 8 Tempests, 12 Archons. The Zerglings just ripping apart a Nexus. He has a Drain Lance, of course, yeah. Has all the upgrades. Does not bother with Hydra Lunge. Appreciate that. In my opinion, Hydra Lunge is just as likely to get you into trouble as out of it. As Serral slowly but surely dismantles the map. He's taking the 12 o'clock base. One of the potentially contested ones. Knocks out a full prism. And if he's able to mine from both, we're entering the bean counter phase. We start counting how many minerals are left, rather than how many they have. As Serral with 12,000 12,000 in the bank. Okay, we knew his investment portfolio looked good, but this is just getting a little ridiculous. Okay. Wombo combo, fungal, parasitic bomb holds it together. Neural parasite, just for extra flavor. And Tempest, a very good counter to Tempest. Serral just obliterates 3 Tempests. Recalls, classic recalls to the bottom right corner. There's still some minerals at the natural. What do we got? Like 1,000? Hey, he's not running out of money. He has half the bank. Which, he can rebuild his army once. It's more like Theseus's Armada here, though. Where, rarely do you have to... Well, if you have to rebuild the entire army, things have gone horribly wrong. But you just rebuild a few units at a time. Until almost every unit is not one of the ones you started with. 2 Ultras. Wow, Serral adding in a couple Ultras. Looking to break the remaining defenses in a way that the Zerglings just can't get done. Void Ray is again the choice. And Serral content to sit back. Wait, is that an Archon wall of cannons? There's still 30 cannons. Infestors left at home. The Broodlord's in position. Is he doing the Broodling trick? I don't even know what's happening over there. Those might have been changelings. 13 Archons and 10 High Templar. As Classic is down to only 42 probes. Plus 3 air armor on the way. Plus 1 ground armor. Feels a little late on that one. Hydra Lunge. Both players are going through and checking which things they haven't pressed on their buildings, so they can get the 100% achievement. Not really relevant until this game comes to Steam. Blizzard intern, please. But, upgrade every upgrade in a professional match. What are we missing from Serral? Well, he didn't build a Roach Warren at all. Yes, he did. I lied. Classic. He had some ping issues. He turned off his VPN. And now he can experience the real game. But we're back. We don't wait for anyone here. But thank you to Pig for doing it live, suffering through, and putting on such incredible games. Make sure, Jimmy, put it in the description. It's not hard. Immortal's dead. Hydras and Lynx. Serral just continually poking and prodding and just grinding down. Like, not even grinding. It's like a sandpaper. I needed something that wasn't grinding, but like still was grating. Coarse, irritating, gets everywhere. Just like Serral. Somehow. It's unclear how sometimes he gets where he gets, but he ends up there. Look at this. A death ball of deathball. The blue balls of Protoss. And a mass recall to the north, but Serral had split the difference. His army was halfway across the map, and the Broodlord's reposition pre-splits the Corruptors. That was a big play right there that Classic tried to make, but Shakespeare needn't be nervous. Doesn't end up coming to anything. The Archon's taking up a significant amount of the physical screen. But the Tempests are turned against their brothers. And many of them will be taken down. The rest of the Tempests, Neural Parasite, much more efficient than Abduct. Alright, because that way they become compliant. Like, you abduct them, they still try to run away. But when you Neural Parasite, they're convinced they need to stay. Neural Parasite, actually the most efficient way to stun a unit. And also do some extra damage. Death by 10,000 cuts. Like, Oh, that's kind of sad. Here comes Serral. There's nothing in the Nidus. It's a fake. It's a decoy. But Classic will be Does he actually lose this base? No. The army comes down, but Serral is just consuming the map. His creep spread is kind of mediocre, but clearly not focusing on it. Instead, he's mining from that, like, 1130 base. One of the two major contested bases on the map. Classic has been unable to touch the one to the south. Serral, I don't think has mined any there. I think he tried it at one point. It was taken out. There's 7 Void Rays out on the field. 14 Archons. They just keep multiplying. As more Templar enter loving yet lifelong and irrevocable relationships. The Archon count continues to grow, and the Lurker count doesn't seem to be high enough to dislodge it. Broodlords and Lurkers combined might be able to deal with that angry mass of overwhelming energy. The Templar are going to throw some water balloons at the spine crawlers. Not nearly enough, but the Tempest obliterating them clearly is. Nidus in the main. A few more charge slots. As Serral. Classic still had some buttons he hadn't pressed. Observer speed on the way. Gravitic boosters. Wait, is that right? Yes, gravitic boosters and gravitic drive. No, the infestors! Gets a fungal out either way. Is there a parasitic bomb follow-up? Not quite, but a couple of the Archons get grabbed. Trying to target. The Broodlord's out in front. The mothership just grinding through. And over the top of the infestors. And actually, Serral gets caught out. He loses a chunk of his infestors, already rebuilding them. But the deathball just kind of lumbering its way across the map of the Zerglings. Significantly faster. Does he have a recall? No, still 30 seconds out. The probe's just getting ripped apart by the Adrenalings to shreds, I say. The entire base is just dismantled in seconds by the hungry Zerglings. 25 probes dead. Classic has barely more than he started with. He's going to work on the base to the north. And Infestor and like 12 changelings. Infestor trying to pretend it was a changeling there, but sometimes there are things we just can't be in life. The Zerglings still... Weren't there Ultras at some point? Whatever happened to the Ultras? He actually canceled them. I was so excited to see the Ultras. But Serral actively canceled them. He didn't even throw them away. They're not in production. They're not on the field. They're not in units lost. It's like they never existed. Ultras don't die when they're killed. They die the last time someone mentions that they get killed so easily you might as well not build them. Alright, that's when Ultras will truly die. 13 Archons. Filtering through a traffic jam of cannons. This Classic just... again and again dragged back, and again it feels like Serral. Well... he has 10,000 gas. His army is 10.1, 8,700. So... but the Zerglings are breaking through. Classic has been entirely shoved back to his corner of the map. He has 12 probes, which does not make for a very healthy income. There are still minerals out there. Serral has mined 10k more, 7k more gas. He's actually lost 1,000 more gas, but 6,000 less minerals, which is kind of a crazy spread. $11 Void Rays. Ah, yes. Void Rays, the TV dinner of Protoss units. Well, the microwave dinner. Alright, who has a TV nowadays? Shout out to those of you watching on TV. Sometimes have to wake up! It's not over yet! It's still game 2! And you haven't liked and subscribed. I know it's a real pain. I hope the ads aren't too annoying on TV. But, I'm sorry, I fell asleep in front of my own commentary train and got distracted. What was I saying? I'm sure it was profound and exciting and worth listening to. But I'm sure it was also concluded and didn't need speaking of. Void rays, yes. The microwave, like, when you're a little too lazy to actually make something nice, and maybe a little too cheap to make something more healthy, you make void rays. And yes, comparing a TV dinner to anything Protoss who don't have mouths is kind of convoluted in the first place, but void rays, they shoot up, they shoot down. They're technically good against corruptors, and they'll be absolutely dismantled by the fungals, the parasitic bomb. I'm actually really surprised he built them at all. Usually it's better to just have a ground army. No carriers, but in the long run, carriers usually cost more than the game. Yes, Cletus and his friend, also Cletus the second, his brother cousin. Identical twin cousins. Don't ask how that works. They couldn't explain it to you. And if these lurkers knew how to read, they'd be very upset. Oracle, but only one of them. Oh no, Cletus! Remember me, Cletus. Ah! Ooh. Lasers. How do they work? Well, Serral has 18,000 minerals and still over 9,000 gas. He was attempting to long distance mine one of them. The deathball continues to, you know, ball. And so there are two ways this goes. Either Serral slowly but surely bleeds him out with acupuncture needles, or Serral makes one fatal mistake and the death ball just rolls through him. Because as most of us know, dealing with this sort of army, while Serral has made it look entirely plausible, can go sideways so incredibly fast you'll get whiplash looking back at your army after it's already died to Storm, and Archons, and Tempest, and Mothership. So, if Serral looks the wrong way for like 5 seconds... Okay, 5 seconds is way too long, like 2 seconds. He's got so much in the bank, I don't think that would be a total disaster. But it certainly would make this a lot more difficult. But so far, he's played pretty much perfect. Like, there's been a couple moments he lost a couple extra investors wandering in with changelings. But he's more than made up for it with some of the most, like... What are you doing? All those void rays balled up, looking so juicy. Throws out a fungal. Grabs one of the Archons. Not enough. Wombo combo fungal on the void rays. Gonna wipe out the shield just like that. And now you're wondering, why is my cholesterol so high? Because you keep microwaving TV dinners. Did you check the sodium count? You shouldn't. That will raise your blood pressure as well. And that's why you don't build void rays. Yes, this analogy is convoluted, but Classic's path to victory is becoming more and more so, as the void rays do less than nothing. They're a liability. The void rays are not the answer. If the question is, what unit is too expensive to serve the role you're trying to use it for, and takes up surprisingly much supply while giving very little in return against a competent player, well, then that would be the correct answer for Void Rays, but Classic has too many of them. 14 is about 10 Void Rays too many. The legacy of the Voids will be one of mediocrity. He needs to do something else. Now, it's not my problem. I don't need to figure out what. Definitely not carriers. Okay. But the Void Rays are just a liability. He grabs the Archons, throws out some more fungals. The Void Rays are just melting. The Archons are taking them out, and then he drags them back into the Broodlords to be murdered. In Classic, he kills 1 Broodlord and 1 Zergling for the cost of 5 Void Rays and 4 Archons. I'm not a mathematician, but those numbers spell disaster for Classic. As he just slowly but surely bleeds out. His bank dissipating. As Serral somehow has more in the bank. Oracle goes down. The 3 more Void Rays. Oh. Like... Void Rays are like shoving your dishes in the sink, okay? You know you should just wash them now. That'll save your problems later. But now, it just keeps adding up. You keep shoving dishes in the sink. And now suddenly you got a full sink. And you know the dishwasher isn't going to get the job done. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves here. So, but you just keep shoving them in. And then suddenly in your sink, boom, 10 Void Rays. How did they get there? I don't know. You just kept building them. You didn't think about it. You knew it was a mistake at the time, yet you kept building the Void Rays. This isn't 4v4, and even in 4v4, I doubt it would be the composition to go for. 12 Void Rays, 10 Archons. More Tempests? You build too many Tempests, and it becomes a liability to the Corruptors. But I feel like more Tempests and more Templar would be better than the Void Rays. Takes out one of the Infestors. All he needs is one good fight. Feels like he does have Flux Veins. Everyone's maxed out across the board on upgrades. Void Rays, the Rose Art of Protoss Stargate units. Alright, for those who don't know, Rose Art is the type of crayons that parents gave to the children they didn't love. Okay. The Mega Blocks. Void Rays over here like the gold-plated audio cables of Protoss. Alright, might be shiny. It sounds like a good idea, but does it actually do anything? It makes you feel rich because you spent so much on these audio cables. You spent so much on these Void Rays, and now you can't afford anything else. That's not exactly true yet, but it feels like we're getting there as the inevitable tide of Serral just continues to stream in. More and more of the base is being dismantled, and at no point has the momentum shifted back. We're getting into Fist of Neeb territory with near 200 army supply. One Ultralisk. Brutus. This ain't it from Classic. I mean, he still has, I keep saying it, but he still has the army that could win the game in a single fight. But Serral has managed to be so unfathomable, just impossibly cost-effective. Yes, I turned away from saying unfathomably because I can't reliably pronounce that word with my... because it's too fancy for me. But when you want to pretend to be fancy, but you can't actually afford it, and you think it's going to be fancy, you build Void Rays. All right, Void Rays, the supreme of Stargate units. The Rolls Royce. I don't know. Is Rolls Royce like an actual rich people thing? See, I don't know. I don't have enough likes and subscribes to know the answer to that. Okay. The Broodlords starting to siege up the natural itself. And I guess at this point I do have to remind you that... Wait, are there minerals here? Serral is now expanding to Classics front. Brutus and his gang of Zerglings. Well, this feels like that Ultra is not... Bad too, Brutus. Oh, that doesn't really work either. Just like Void Rays. 16 Void Rays. Timu brand Protoss. So either this is gonna have it. All signs point to Serral eventually just bleeding him out. But again, if the infestors wander a little too far forward, God, this is so. It's like the fungals, the neural parasite. He grabs the Archon's feedback's a bit late. Broodlord's moving forward. Tempest will knock out a few of these, but then he throws it in. And parasitic bomb doesn't quite line it up. Gonna take out some of it. The Zerglings are ripping through the entire main base. Maximum damage. Parasitic bomb will do permanent hull damage to the Tempest. And how's he going to rebuild them without any Stargates? The entire main, the Templar Archives. He's going to burrow in the corners. Might be able to take out the candidate burrow. Trying to split to deal with the potential revelations. But the Broodlords are headed south. Maybe the Void Rays should be down there. A recall. At least not recalling to the Nexus that's about to be taken down. But Serral... just... he's mining not only from the contested base, but I never thought Serral would actually be taking Classic center base, but here we are. The gas has been gone for quite a while. He long distance mined out another extractor to the north. Serral has mined 7,000 more gas. He's lost 6,000 less minerals and 2,000 less gas. He still has 17. He could pay for most of the rest of the next game at this point. His army, 10.9 thousand minerals and 8,800 gas. Classic is... yeah, look at you, just sitting there. The Cybertruck of Protoss. Okay, not only is it not very effective at what it's supposed to do, but it's also just embarrassing to own. Just one of them, let alone this many. All right. Another couple Archons will be kidnapped and killed. Held down. And just melted. The Broodlings, right? The Zerglings, of course. Alright, this is... it's like... this is like David versus Goliath if David was a swarm of 100 angry bees. Well, another couple fungals. What? Did you say fun gals? Hey, I'm a fun gal, Brenda. Not now. It's too late for this. I've been doing nothing most of the game. We've just been sitting here creeping for like 34 minutes. I want to do something. Okay, well, I don't know. Transfuse a Brood Lord. I'm gonna go back to creeping, all right? This is not very inspirational. Fine. Well, couple Templar. I want to see a neural parasite on the Templar. Brood Lords. Some of them getting obliterated, but Serral with that beautiful spread. The Void Race. Now's your time. Oh my, the Wombo combo. The beautiful, beautiful setup. The Spore Crawlers to zone it out. The Tempest just melting. The Void Race as well. The Corruptor's kiting back. And Serral is just... This is bullying him. It's another fungal. Classic. Trying to chase him down. But Serral dips slightly into his emergency fund here. Really more like his savings. And pulls out another 12 Corruptors, 3 Vipers, 4 Broodlords, and still has thousands in the bank. Classic does not have any Stargates, so he's back to building Stalkers. I feel like Stalkers may have been the choice a while ago. Something. Anything. Besides Void Race. Of which he still has 11. Serral is what? This gas can be Serral is mining from this gas. How? This is ridiculous. You see, I did it. I transfused the Brood. Are you happy? I was happy before. That was fine. Well, you should be happier now. Okay, fun place. Fun gal! Sorry. It's been a long game. And we're just getting started. As at this rate, Classic has another half hour left in him. This... Of all the games I've ever seen, game 1 was Serral just comprehensively dismantling Classic. And now game 2 is Serral emotionally dives on top. Finally, the parasitic bomb with everything. The Corruptor count absolutely overwhelming. And Classic down to 20 supply. The Archons are grabbed to obliterate the probes, dragged into the Brood Lords. Classic warps in 1 Stalker. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to turn it around. Classic is at 16 supply, and Serral says, let him cook. What are we cooking? 16 Broodlords. An entire feudal society of lords is on the way. Serral will have 2 Broodlords to every Stalker. He is mining from 2 to 3 of the bases that Classic really should have owned. And, the Brood... Blinks in with the Stalkers. Types out the G's. Serral. Wow. 160,000 resources later. 30 Archons, 21 Void Rays, 22 Tempests, 1 Ultralisk. We're just throwing some of the numbers out there. Wow. I didn't think he could get more dominant than game number 1, but I'm excited to say he did. As that... Yeah. Now imagine having to play more after that. Classic is gonna need to completely turn this car around. This is not the Serral beating version of Classic that we've seen. Serral clearly has his number and is continually calling him so often that he can't remember how to play Protoss, apparently. He's continually distracted. It felt like he tried almost nothing and he ran out of ideas. He just couldn't get anywhere. And then by the time he finally built up the army, Serral had a better one. The Broodlord Infestor, just a comprehensive beatdown that feels somewhat inappropriate to be showing here, but hopefully we don't get demonetized. Game 3, Torches. And in flames, just like Classic's chances of taking this series. That was not close. More one-sided than a Mobius strip by the end. Serral sending the drone out, and gets blocked. Almost quick enough to get the hatch, but he was one trip off on the minerals. Gonna be forced into the third base, which is a moderate inconvenience. Zergs are used to it at this point. Really, the only bases you're allowed to take are your third or their naturary, if they're intent on it. But it is still bothersome. I have no idea. Well, he's got to try something. And as long as it's not Glaive Adepts, okay? Glaive Adepts are almost the Hellbats of Protoss, but have a much higher win rate, all right? Even Serral gets regularly caught off guard by Glaive Adepts. But it's definitely one of those, like, I'll just whip this out and put it out there and see what happens. Like 40% of the time it works every time kind of builds. Much higher on the ladder, and that's why people hate Protoss. And of course we mean after the Stargate. As we all know, the Stargate is obligatory. Not getting a Stargate is a cheese in of itself. Like, nobody just goes Twilight. The Oracle plus energy recharge is simply too good. Alright. If you don't build one, you are giving up so much scouting, defense, just basic map control. It is more than worth it. Even though the Oracle costs as much as the Stargate itself, it more than pays off on a regular basis. Serral has seemingly found the timings to kind of negate those advantages with those early Zergling rushes that in a past lifetime just an hour ago, when we first saw this. Wait, more than an hour, the first one. Oh, it's all blending together. It's only been 2 games. Speaking of Zerglings, though, 2 of them get in. Probes boxing out. Oh my, wait. They're still going. The Oracle just standing there saying, well, this isn't my job. You're not my supervisor. Technically, though, probes handle it with a citizen's arrest. Another clutch of Zerglings headed across. First, Oracle. Interestingly, Classic not using the energy recharge on it. The Zerglings actually finding an okay kind of surface area. 2 of them nibbling on the Adept. Tries to micro away. Going to kill the Adept. Oracle lights up. Gonna kill off a couple. Two more guesses behind, indicating a Twilight Council is in the near future. Will it be before the third? Ah, mines through the mineral wall in order to open up the third base and fighting the queen. Oh, well, that's just... Queen is assassinated by 2 oracles. And for the first time, it appears both oracles will get out. A running trend has been Serral sniping off the oracles. Really something that should not happen almost ever, yet has been consistent throughout the series. But for once, the queens are struck down and Classic strikes back. Losing even 1 queen this early on can really spiral. I'm grasping at straws here. My commentary's spiraling. I feel like I lost a few dozen brain cells, and I have precious few left. But, on that last game. It happens to the best of us. Classic, one of the best Protoss players in the world. But sometimes you get so locked into a composition. He clearly got tilted. And sometimes it feels like you can't do anything else. You're just doing this, and either it works, or it doesn't, but whatever. Okay, like... I'm already so far behind, I'll just keep building Void Rays. I feel like, admit it, Protoss players, or even non-Protoss who play Protoss in team games, you've done the exact same thing. It looks dumb when Classic does it, and it looks dumb when you do... No. No. This is restricted lair space. Okay, you can't be... But it's... Well... Shit. 6 drones dead. The Adepts actually get in, pick off another. The Oracle is up against the air blocker, like the temple or whatever we got going on here. And actually will survive, mostly because I think the Queens forgot about it. But the Templar Archives at the back. More Queens down the front. Spire is on the way. It looks like Serral gonna try Mutas. A bold move, but definitely one that can take advantage of this map and the relatively close air distance. The Zerg Rock's gonna be helped along by the Stalkers. Ooh. Queen's holding. It's Ravager Ling, and with the Spire on the way, Serral was trying to bank up money. I kind of wasn't respecting the danger of this attack pose, but +1 done. Serral has to tread a fine line between building units to defend this and actually doing so, well, actually being able to build mutas. Classic backs off. Storm is already on the way. There's 6 mutas in the bank. A stasis in the main. Oh, he nailed the timing! If nothing else, I've never seen anyone actually able to nail the timing so perfectly. He chained the stasis. That one Oracle that survived comes back and is a massive thorn in Serral's side. And he can't actually move his spore. He has to go all the way around because of the stasis. And the Oracle's gonna get out. He's gonna get away with it. You know what? Serral's been dominating so hard, I'm actually rooting for Classic now for the sake of the series because, wow. Are you admitting that you were rooting for Serral before? I should not speak. If I speak, I will be in big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble. I should not speak. Yes, though, totally. The Mutas flapping across. Classic with no idea this was coming. No cannons. Has to warp in some Stalkers and a bit of a panic to defend, but just gonna go in for the kill. The Warp Prism out ahead. The Storms on top of the Roaches and Lings across the entire board. The Templar, still one more Storm ready. The Warp Prism can warp in. The Ravager throws up a Corrosive Bile. Not enough to knock it down, though. The Stalker count might be too high. More Roaches on the way. The Mutas eviscerating the probes. The economy going to be gutted on both sides. The Warp Prism survives. One Corrosive Bile away. A couple Knitting Needles, but that's it. Classic just wins. Was Serral out of it? I mean, There's a dozen roaches ready to reinforce. And no, there are stalkers back at home to defend. Another warpin. He didn't kill it. No, Serral was about to take game-ending damage. Oh, and the gold base is up. Yeah, he's super dead. This isn't clever, all right? Classic strikes back. And finally is contested. Serral trying the mutas. Didn't work out. Not a big heartbreaker there for Serral on one of the toughest maps for Zerg versus Protoss. Very simply, it's almost impossible to pressure the Protoss bases directly. That's part of why Serral chose mutas. And now that Classic has more economy with a better unit composition, it doesn't get any easier from there. So, a tough loss, but one you can easily shake off, I think. And maybe a confidence booster for Classic. All right, needed something to turn it around. Again, can't read into it too much, but if those Protoss players could read, they'd be very upset. Persephone. Classic is on the board. Not going to be a clean sweep for the finisher. And you know what? We made it this far. I don't usually do this sort of cross-pollination, cross-promotion. Mostly because I forget, not because I don't want to. But you've made it this far. You're a little committed, or you're asleep. Either way, first, like and subscribe. And two, if you haven't yet checked out the second channel, Winter Gaming TV, for pretty much everything else, including me streaming StarCraft 2, but also a lot of other strategy games. I mean, still StarCraft 2 is who I come home to every day. But it's good to explore your horizons. And recently been doing a lot of Beyond All Reason, the free-to-play, volunteer-made, Total Annihilation-inspired massive-scale RTS. We're talking 10,000 units. And not just through the course of the game, at one time. If you haven't yet checked it out. And I mentioned because if you're watching this in the first week, next week will be the 50K Discord member event. There will be 100 players or more in the lobbies for Beyond All Reason. So if you haven't yet got into the game, next Saturday and Sunday. And if you're watching this when I have 10 million subscribers on both channels, I know, crazy, but in the future, well, the 1 million Discord event I'm sure is going on. And somehow we're going to fit 1,000 players in. But now is a great time to get into it if you haven't yet. And also some other games I'm looking forward to on top of StarCraft, of course. But let's be honest here. StarCraft hasn't had a whole bunch of big updates that are worth noting. Outside of a few tweaks that made people angry in general and been widely regarded as a bad move, even if make the game balanced. Moving on. But the Scouring, Warcraft 2, Remastered. Not officially, but when you see it. Era 1, Homeworld 3. Like, didn't Homeworld 3 come out? What if you took Homeworld 3 and Elite Dangerous? Okay. And Cosmoteer. If you know that game, well, you definitely need to check out Era 1. 100%. Darfall, Warcraft 3, but they are billions. All these you can find on the second channel if you haven't yet subscribed over there. Though, I would hope it comes up in recommended. But I've been putting some... But it's not really extra work at this point. Kind of balanced it out. There are only so many hours in the day. Unfortunately. And we spent an entire one on that Void Ray game. But, but what I'm saying is, hopefully, it makes your day a little bit better. And maybe a little more of your days a little bit better. And if you're wondering why there aren't videos every day on this channel, so here's what I've worked out. The best format. 6 to 7 hours of content a week. That's what you can expect. If I go over that, it seems like YouTube doesn't show off the videos as much to people. It's pretty noticeable. So the idea is putting out a certain amount of content every week. With clickbait, not clickbait, but partially just oversaturating is bad. Just like having too many workers on minerals, or too few. You want to have just the right amount, which is 16 to 20. All right, 16 is the perfect number, but I do want to say, one of my pet peeves is that it turns red after 16 instead of yellow. So many noobs seeing that it turns red saying, oh, well, I can't mine anymore. Red is bad. No, you get more mining efficiency up to 24 workers. Okay, because each patch has 2 workers on it efficiently, but a third worker can take a look and step in occasionally and be more efficient. So usually can go up to about 20 workers before losing a lot of efficiency. The pros will almost never do that because they're faster, better, harder, stronger. But do not long distance mine with your workers until you have at least 20 on a base. All right, please stop. We haven't done too much Angry Coach lately, but please stop it. And if you were to see Angry Coach, it would probably be on the second channel. Winter Gaming TV, have I mentioned it? We brought it back around, a recall back if you would, but the Oracle so far, Serral, lost 3 drones. There's been a lot of poking and prodding, but the Oracles have not ended up being the critical damage. They haven't set Serral into an awkward position where he's forced to all in. But Classic has ground out a bit of map control for himself. He's going to have Blink +1 on the way. All the fixins coming together. Something about that game just broke me. That ley line skill. I have just obviously something broke Classic as well. But it seems like he's recovered. I may never. Templar Archives coming up. This time around, Serral, for the first time in the series, I believe, with a Baneling nest. And with a whole bunch of Zerglings on the way. He's already got 70 drones. He somehow manages to do that almost no matter what. I don't know how. 6 minutes in, 7 drones, 70 drones, and has enough to do a big Ling Bane attack. In fact, I think that's the plan. Who doesn't know Hydra Bane? I keep doing this. I keep saying, oh, he's going all in. And I just said he had 70 drones. That's not all in. He has 4 bases. He has enough economy to do almost whatever he wants at this stage. He's going to crush the Blink Stalkers and try to turn that into a game-winning... Stop saying that. Get an advantage. Get an incremental advantage, compounding interest over time. All right? Buy today. Winter Coin. Blink Stalkers, but they're walking into an already dangerous amount of Zerglings. Dozens more on the way. The Queen's getting involved. Not again. Serral has managed to crush these Stalkers in multiple games so far. He's waiting with the Overseer, I think, to delay Storm. He has yet to succeed, but the Overseer will... I don't think it's going to have enough energy quite in time to contaminate and delay Storm. But we'll see. Oracles light up. Not in time to save the 4th Nexus from being ripped apart by the Zerglings. Now Storm's on the way. Chrono boosting it. The Overseer sitting there. Jimmy, edit that out. 6 Overlords, Dropper Lords on the way. He does have Overlord speed. Serral, clearly intending on some alternative tactics. Banelings? Maybe Baneling drop? Potentially, but Classic just moving directly across the map. He's got some Templar with Storm, but here comes Serral. The Storm's on the Zerglings, but he floods in anyways. On top of the Templar, and just completely crushes the army. Where's Charge? He doesn't have Charge for his Zealots. They're just slowly trundling up. It's a disaster for Classic. Where are you just gonna blink out of this? Blinks all the way down. Kind of just a real bitch move out of Classic, to be honest. But what a disaster piece. He was able to turn it around just a bit, but this game has again tilted right back towards Serral. And the Banelings rolling 8 probes dead. Serral's up 50 supply. This will not be a 55-minute game. This will not be an exercise in frustration, a mental victory, a smothering of the Protoss. This will be a direct and utter beatdown. All right. Here comes Serral. Another couple Banelings rolling in from both sides. Still manages to kill more probes. More Banelings rolling in. Stasis hits a few Zerglings. Not going to be enough. Templar storms. Not enough for the Banes. Has to use them on the rest. The Hydras. Still a good concave. Not enough energy on the Templar. Not enough anything out in front. Charge will not finish. The Archons will not complete. And Classic will not win this series. Serral with a decisive 3-1 victory. I mean, he hasn't typed the G's yet, but... that stasis not quite in position. 100 supply deficit. We're just watching the death animation. Would you die already? Serral, I don't think gonna let this one sit back. There's no reason to. Just crush the 4th base again and again. The Templar are desperate. He knows. But he's got to try. GG! Serral completes the series 3-1. A decisive victory to cap it off. After some much more comprehensive ones. Some much more arduous ones. Well. Definitely a demonstration here today. Serral showing how to absolutely... I feel like that game 1, the way Serral just manipulated Classic into position and pulled him apart, kind of set the tone. Classic did not want to get caught out in game 2. And he didn't. He never did. He just slowly died instead, which was more sad and painful and mentally taxing, but had the same result. Serral, 3-1. Hopefully you enjoyed. Thank you to Pig, as always, for putting on these incredible tournaments. Make sure to check them out. And the second channel if you got a chance while you're down there. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons. Can't forget Big Jiggy, Devin, Door, Kate, Mario, Random Guy, and Suit. And everyone, glad you still enjoy. I hope I made your day a little bit better, and I hope to see you next time. Make sure to go check out that Serral vs. Classic series from DreamHack Dallas. It's even longer than this one. And I'd argue a bit more action-packed, but I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Don't build Void Rays. Stay chill.